It's the Brad Field Weather Podcast, underwritten by Action Carpet and Floor Covering of Simsbury, a family-run business that's built for you, and by McAllen Construction. McAllen Construction, from the first dig to the last nail, and McAllen also does snow removal. I am Dan Lovallo. He is meteorologist Brad Field. And Brad, here we are putting this podcast together on January the 10th. And I know you want to begin the podcast by giving us an explainer. What is going on with this weather?
Yeah, Dan, I think the folks deserve an explainer. I've got a really good friend. His name is Danny. And I was talking to him the other day, and he said, what a waste of cold air. And that is truth. It is a waste of cold air if you like snow. Because, Dan, we've had 4 consecutive days. We're going on to our 5th day here. Over 100 consecutive hours of the temperature staying below freezing. So I got the cold part of the forecast right. The ponds are freezing up. The lakes are glazing over. I drive over the Connecticut River to go back and forth from my home to Granby. And I saw that there was some ice forming in the Connecticut River and so forth. So this is just sort of teaser cold compared to what I do think is coming later in the month and early during the month of February. But we missed a storm on Monday. Now, last week on the podcast, which we did, I believe, on Thursday, I said I was concerned that there would be a storm close by, but I did think it would miss, and it did miss. It went under us on Monday. It was cloudy, and it seemed like it was going to snow, and it did a little bit downstate. Southern Connecticut had up to a heavy coating, a little bit under an inch in some locations in Southern Connecticut. But that was by and large a D.C. storm, Dan. If you see the news and you see the pictures of the White House and Capitol Hill and all that, you saw that there was all kinds of snow on the ground on Monday and Tuesday, and it didn't go anywhere because it's been just as cold down there. But I did think that storm would miss. Now, last week on the podcast, I was hinting at potential for this weekend. In other words, tomorrow. In other words, Sunday. And I mean, there was all sorts of potential. There is a storm. But again, this looks like, by and large, it's going to miss to the south. I mean, this time I'm thinking Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, Maryland, Delaware. Parts of those states, Dan, are going to get up to 8 inches of snow accumulation. And further south, places like northern Alabama into northern Georgia, could even be the Atlanta metro. We're looking at serious icing coming in. So it's going to be a weird situation where by the end of this weekend, places far to our south, I mean, I'm not talking 100 miles, I'm talking several hundred miles, will have ended up with more of a winter in terms of snow and ice than we've had so far. So that's just kind of an unlucky situation if you like snow. So in other words, to summarize here, Dan, we've had 2 primary misses in the past week, the one on Monday, the one coming for this weekend. And I do want to apologize to the snow lovers because last Thursday I thought for sure there was this potential for this weekend. Monday, Dan, here's what happens to me. I log on to my iPad like I do every morning. I look at all the computer models, and the GFS, the American mid-range model for Saturday had, listen to this, Dan, 23 inches of snow. Then the afternoon computer model run had 19 inches of snow. So no matter how you cut it, it looked like they were on board for a blockbuster storm coming up this weekend. And it did have support at times from the Canadian model, and it had a little bit of support for a brief period by the European model. By and large, though, Dan, true confession here. The European model did do the best on this. It pushed it out to sea to the south a lot quicker than the GFS model. But we are going to get a little something tomorrow, but the emphasis on a little something. It's not going to be a big storm by any stretch.
We will return to the Bradfield Weather Podcast in just a moment. I want to talk a moment about Action Carpet and Floor Covering of Simsbury, one of the underwriters of the Bradfield Weather Podcast. Action Carpet and Floor Covering is a family-run business that's built for you. Founded in 1993 by CEO Kevin Blake, Action Carpet and Floor Covering has now become one of the top companies for all your home remodeling needs, priding itself on its craftsmanship. Whether it's bathroom or kitchen remodels, carpet installation, carpet cleaning or buffing, sanding, refinishing, luxury vinyl tile, or mold remediation, Action Carpet and Floor Covering is the place to turn. And Action Carpet and Floor Covering does give estimates. When Action Carpet and Floor Covering works with you, their motto is, your family becomes our family. Call Action Carpet and Floor Covering today at 860-651-8406. That's 860-651-8406. Or drop by their showroom at 1394 Hot Meadow Street in Simsbury. You can also go online at actioncarpetandfloorcovering.com. Action Carpet and Floor Covering, a family-run business that's built for you. And now back to the Bradfield Weather Podcast. Brad, that begs the question, how come we keep missing these storms?
Well, it's all the atmospheric structure, Dan. How the river of air flows up at the 5 mile, 10 miles up where the airplanes fly. How the steering winds are going. And, I never want to say it's too cold to snow, but the storm track is too far to the south. I mean, we are just missing out on these storms. I'm not saying that this is going to continue. I mean, ultimately, we may get into a river of air that's in just the right spot where we're going to, get these storms up here. And once that pattern locks in, I think we're going to be good. I just don't like the idea of running out of time. I mean, we're in the, middle, we're heading into the middle part of January. January, by and large, has had nothing in terms of snow. I mean, very little. I mean, maybe an inch in some places, but, that's nothing compared to what we could be having this time of year. I love how you post on bradfieldweather.com, Dan, the weather history. And, we've had some pretty good weather history in this past week. You think back to 1996, we had an all-out blizzard with generally 1.5 feet of snow accumulation, I think even more up your way. But, we can have some big, big blizzards this time of year going right through the middle part of March. So we always have to stand guard for those. But, right now we are just not in the proper jet stream pattern to get these storms delivered up here.
Well, we'll see what unfolds. As you said, we're heading towards the middle of January. Who knows what might happen? Now, you mentioned there's a possibility we're going to get something tomorrow. So what does the current storm track look like?
Well, this morning, Dan, the storm is located in southeastern Louisiana. Now, typically, when you look at a storm coming out of the Gulf of Mexico and heading toward the North Carolina coast, you think, oh, wow, this is nice. And, typically those Cape Hatteras storms, they keep tracking up toward Cape Cod, and those are our big snowstorms. But this one is going to come up to the Virginia, North Carolina coast, and instead of coming northeast up the coast, because of these steering winds, it's going to go east-northeast out to sea to our south. So now earlier in the week, I thought that storm would ultimately end up around Atlantic City, New Jersey, which is perfect for us, off the coast of Atlantic City, New Jersey. But in reality, the storm is going to be off the coast of Virginia and North Carolina, right where those two states come together tomorrow morning. But as the storm tracks from southeast Louisiana to the Virginia, North Carolina coast, snow is going to be breaking out through Kentucky and Tennessee, ice into northern New Jersey. This evening, the low is going to be strung out from Alabama to the Panhandle with snow in Kentucky, eastern Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia. The middle of the night, the storm will be off the South Carolina coast. We're going to see ice in northern Virginia, northwest South Carolina, and interior North Carolina. So those poor folks that were pummeled by Helene are going to now have an ice storm on their hands. As I said, tomorrow morning, the storm will be off the Virginia, North Carolina coast. And like I said earlier this week, I thought Atlantic City, but that difference of 100 miles there, Dan, that is going to spread the accumulating snow out into the Atlantic Ocean. We are going to be on the northern fringe here in Connecticut, and I do think it's going to snow tomorrow, but not a big deal. I'm thinking a coating to an inch tomorrow morning. It's probably more of a broom thing. The poor plow drivers, I think, might be able to spread a little sand tomorrow, but that's about it. I don't think there'll be much in the way of plowing tomorrow. And then by tomorrow evening, Dan, the storm is out to sea and, just back to the wind and the cold.
And we have been getting a lot of wind. I can't recall a stretch, and it really started at the beginning of the week where we've had wind velocities this high over an extended period, Brad.
Yeah, there was a weather watcher, Dan, up in Torrington. I believe his name is Rick Hill. And Rick sent me a trace of his anemometer and the output from that. And you guys apparently, Dan, earlier this week had a wind gust of 61 miles per hour. Wow. My immediate response to him was, "You still have power." But I guess, Eversource and United Illuminating are doing a good job with the tree trimming processes along the roadways, because I've been noticing when it's been this windy stretch, Dan, I keep looking on bradfieldweather.com, and you have the Eversource link there and the United Illuminating link, and I've been looking to see about power outages, and there's been a few hundred, but nothing major from what you would think. You would think you get these 60-mile-per-hour winds, you'd have all sorts of power outages, but apparently they're doing a great job with the tree trimming. But it's been very windy. Again, that is all part and parcel with how pressure systems set up. And the isobars are the lines of constant pressure that go around high pressure, that go around low pressure. And if you look on a weather map, the tighter the isobars are packed, the stronger the winds are. So typically the more intense the high pressure system is, or the low pressure system is, the stronger the winds are. Now, we obviously have had Arctic air over us. Now, it's been cold this week, Dan, but I will tell you what, if we had snow cover, it would have been so much colder. But because what happens during the day is the solar radiation is captured by surfaces such as especially blacktop and green grass or brown grass, dead leaves in the woods and stuff. It's much more able to absorb solar radiation during the day and then re-radiate it out to space at night, or tending to warm the ground surfaces artificially. But now put snow cover there, so instead of the grass everywhere and the dead leaves in the woods everywhere, have a surface of white. What happens with white? The sun reflects right off the white. So snow tends to protect itself because of the color that it is, and it reflects the sunlight. So it would have been much, much colder had we had a decent snow cover around here. So, you can be thankful for that. But, it looks like we're going to go into the wind tunnel again, Dan, toward the middle of next week. So I'll talk about that in a minute.
We will return to the Bradfield Weather Podcast in just a moment. I want to talk for a moment about McAllen Construction, one of the underwriters of the Bradfield Weather Podcast. McAllen Construction, centrally located in Prospect, Connecticut, is a full-service construction company that has been servicing the entire state for more than a quarter of a century. They are on call 24/7, 365 days a year. Involved in residential and commercial building projects, utility construction, site work, water and sewer repairs, and installation. McAllen Construction is a woman-owned small minority business, state of Connecticut licensed and insured. And now, McAllen Construction does snow removal. And snow is going to be part of our winter, that's for sure. McAllen Construction, you can call them at 203-758-3474. That's 203-758-3474. Or go online, McAllenConstructionCT.com. Remember, McAllen Construction is licensed as a major contractor, new home construction contractor, plumbing and piping limited P7, home improvement contractor, and subsurface sewage installer, utility, carpentry, excavation, and snow removal for residents, commercial businesses, and state and local governments. McAllen Construction, from the first dig to the last nail. Now back to the Bradfield Weather Podcast. As we put this podcast together on the 10th of January, on the weather map, what does the weather map look like?
Well, after the storm goes by and out to sea, as I said, that storm tracking from southeast Louisiana to the Virginia, North Carolina coast, and then out to sea, giving us a coating to an inch coming up tomorrow. By Sunday, we've got a pretty sprawling high-pressure system over the Appalachians. Its center is probably going to be over western North Carolina, so we should have a seasonable day, temperatures in the 30s. Places that make snow, I mean, everybody makes snow these days, but, it probably will be a decent weekend for skiing. The sun will be out. I mean, it'll be in the 30s on Sunday. That's seasonable. It's not horribly cold. So, that would be a good day for the skiers to get out there. Now, on Monday, that's going to be our warmest day we've had in a while, in quite a stretch here. Because we are going to be out in front of a cold front that will be advancing in our direction. So the temperatures Monday are going to be between 36 and 42. Now, that's not that warm, but, compared to the wind and the cold we've been going through, it's going to feel nice. On Tuesday, Dan, turning colder again. An upper level cold pool will be moving toward us. I wouldn't rule out that there could be some flurries flitting around in the sky, but I don't think there'll be any accumulation, just kind of a blustery winter day. And then Wednesday, I'll leave you with Wednesday because then we'll be doing our podcast again on Thursday. It is going to be a cold, windy day. I think winds will be straight out of the north, around 40 miles per hour. Temperatures only in the 20s. So enjoy this brief respite from the cold coming up, especially in the Sunday, Monday time frame where temperatures may be flirting with 40, because it looks like it'll be turning sharply colder again toward the middle part of next week. And then the question begs after that, Dan, are there more snowstorm chances? And the answer is yes. I mean, obviously the answer is yes. When you have the cold air and, you get precipitation around here typically at least once a week. So, something will come along and, odds are it will be in the form of snow, but we just are unlucky. If you like snow, we've just been unlucky this year. The potentials are turning out as I thought that they would, but they are just missing us. And you think about something, you think about a storm, say, let's just say it's out near Los Angeles and San Diego, and oh my God, that's another story that that's just a horrible story, what's been happening out toward Los Angeles. But If you place a storm there, 3,000 miles away from us, Dan, and you are off in its track, there's 360 degrees in a compass, right? If you think a storm's heading more or less is, say, 90 degrees, that's straight east. So if you're looking at a storm around San Diego and you think it's going to exit around, Georgia coast or whatever, that would be like more or less a straight easterly heading. But if you think that the storm is going to, say, track at 70 degrees and come out around Atlantic City, New Jersey, but say it tracks at 75 degrees and it comes out around Virginia, North Carolina, as the storm is traveling over that distance of 3,000 miles to get from the West Coast to the East Coast, just a slight being off on your trajectory, even if it's a matter of only a few degrees, can make hundreds of miles of difference by the time it gets to the Atlantic coast. So, sometimes it looks like meteorologists are wrong again, but if you have everything right in the theory that the storm is going to be there, this is the general direction the storm is going to track. If you're off by 5 degrees over 3,000 miles, that's going to make all the difference in the world, whether the storm hits or whether you get just a little glancing blow on the northern fringe, and that's what's happening.
Weather is amazing. There's no question about that. Well,
amazing and frustrating,
yeah. which is why you pursued meteorology as a career, right?
Absolutely, Dan. I will say this one thing about this, and this is truth. I am fine. I mean, I'm completely fine. My health is. I've always been sort of athletic, and my health is good. But you need good health in the business that we were in, Dan. I mean, you worked on the radio side, and now you're doing some of the TV for Nesson. But I had to be at the television station for 37 years. No matter what the weather.
Yep.
I mean, the schools shut down when there's an inch of snow, and I understand that. I mean, they don't want to risk the kids and run the buses and everything. But I've thought back over the 37 years of getting out of my car in the middle of the night and trying to look at mailboxes because I didn't know where I was because of fog. Coming home, being rerouted many times because water was cascading down the hills and into the streets, and the police, shut the roads off. I remember driving in blizzards, driving in ice storms. I mean, that's staying up for like 30 hours broadcasting on TV. All of this is bad for your health. Then to top it all off, the criticisms that you get. Now, I've developed, there's no way I could have done 37 years of being a television meteorologist if I didn't have a thick skin, because you get criticized, especially when people sit behind their keyboard. But then, what really is the truth? Only about less than 5% of the people are mean. I mean, over 95% of the people are really nice. They appreciate the hard work that you did, that I did as public service, as public servants. And but my health has improved greatly. My doctor at one point was concerned about my blood pressure, and that was probably part and parcel with the last general manager I had at the television station. But besides that, Dan, my blood pressure now is in perfectly normal range. I sleep from like 10 at night till like 6 in the morning. I don't have to go to bed at 2 a.m. And then you look at these poor morning shift guys, they're getting up at 2 a.m.
Oh, right.
So
That's right.
It's just, yeah,
Yep.
But anyway, the health is good, and little critiques, they go along in this business. They're part and parcel of the business, and the old proverbial, if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen.
Well said, my friend. And on that note, and again, as we put this podcast together on January the 10th, and neither one of us will have to get up at 2 o'clock on Saturday morning, what does our immediate forecast look like?
Well, it's a beautiful day, Dan. I'm looking out the window right now, and I do not see a cloud. Clear. So sunny this afternoon, temperatures moving up into the 30s, and for the first time in 5 days, I think it will go above 32 this afternoon. Now for tonight, increasing clouds back down into the 20s. Look for a little bit of light snow breaking out toward daybreak. For tomorrow, Saturday, morning snow, a coating with up to 1 inch of accumulation, some afternoon clearing, temperatures between 30 and 35. Sunday looks sunny. Temperatures moving up into the 30s. Remember Monday I said we've got a cold front approaching from the west. So we'll have sun giving way to increasing clouds, but briefly milder ahead of the cold front. Temperature 36 to 42. Tuesday turning colder again. I think temperatures will be between 28 and 34 degrees with variable clouds. Few flurries flitting by. And then we turn on the wind machine again, Dan, out of the straight north, gusting to 40 with temperatures in the 20s. So wind chills down near zero again, and at least partly sunny skies during Wednesday.
All right, my friend, on that note, to you and Sandy, our podcast and radio audience, thanks for listening. Be well and be safe.
Dan, to you and Susan, have a great week ahead. And to the snow lovers, hang in there. And again, apologies for these 2 misses, but Mother Nature will do it her way.
There's no disputing that. The Bradfield Weather Podcast has been underwritten by McAllen Construction of Prospect, servicing the entire state. McAllen Construction, from the first dig to the last nail. And by Action Carpet and Floor Covering of Simsbury, from hardwood installation to bathroom and kitchen remodeling and much, much more. A family-run business built for you.